Alright guys, welcome back to another video. I've been getting comments for quite a while now asking for me to make a tips video on how to play the game. And for a while I did try putting up text on the screen, and that was supposed to be the tips on what I'm thinking about when I'm playing the game. But I figured I'd just make a whole video dedicated to some more general tips to help you win hoplite solos. And now I know what everyone is thinking. This person does not sound anything like the person who did the commentary. And that's because the person who did the commentary was actually my friend. And it was supposed to be an obvious troll, but apparently to most people watching the video, it wasn't very obvious.
Craft the trident, craft the fireworks star. Quick, quick, please, make the Aglos. Yes! Aglos has been crafted.
And not only that, but people couldn't even tell whether the person talking was a guy or a girl. So that's kind of a fail on my part. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. So starting out with tip number 1, and that is that if you're going to go mid at the Hunger Games start, your main objective should be to get as many kills as possible. Now, this may sound pretty obvious, but how do you actually go about doing that? Well, imagine a situation where you run mid and you get a wood sword out of a chest. What you absolutely should not be doing is to choose one person and target them and chase them so far away from 0-0. First of all, the wood sword barely does any damage, so the chances of you actually hitting someone from 56 HP all the way down to 0, especially if they have armor and especially if they're running away, is pretty low. Second of all, say you kill them when you're around 400 blocks away from 0-0. Congratulations. Now you've just limited yourself to only having one kill when you could have had a lot more if you had done things the right way. So what do you actually do in this situation? Well, you should try to stay close to mid when you're fighting. The people that are still at mid are the people that have weapons and they're probably going to fight back, which makes them easier to kill than if you're chasing someone that's only going to be running away. Or you might find some random noobs at 0-0 that try looting the chests after everything's already gone, in which case those people are also going to be easy kills. And second of all, when you're fighting, don't just target one person. If you're locked onto one person and you realize that they might be giving you a hard time and they might be hard to kill, then just switch your targets and start going for a different person. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to get as many kills as possible in just 2 minutes. And if you follow the tips that I just gave you, it's not uncommon to end up with 4 or more heads right off the bat, which is going to come in really important as I talk about later. All right, so tip number 2, this one's going to be a bit controversial, but it is that I don't think that you should be going minor. And the reason for this is that every kit has a purpose. Warrior's good if you get a lot of kills, you get healed a lot. Archer's good because it gives you a lot of arrows to bow spam. Trapping's only really viable on Trapper kit. Looter can be good if you want gunpowder or any of the other items for a craft. And Fisherman could be good if you want to fish a pufferfish cannon or an OP bow. Miner is supposed to help you mine more ores, but I would argue that it's not even very good at doing that. Imagine that the average mining game is 12 gold and 4 diamonds. So that would mean that on average, each game you're getting just slightly above 1 gold per game and less than 1 diamond every 2 games, which is pretty bad. And second of all, Miner may have been good in Dragon Scatter, but it's not as good in Hunger Games Start because you have to wait 2 minutes to actually get your kit. If you go mid, there's a good chance that you'll just get a pickaxe out of one of the chests. And if you run away and loot structures, there's already a good chance that you either just get an iron pickaxe or you get enough iron to make an iron pickaxe. And then second of all, even if you go miner, you have to punch a tree, you have to craft an axe, you have to mine all of your wood with this slow axe. So I don't think that going miner actually saves you any time by giving you a pickaxe out the start, especially when you're only really using the pickaxe to mine your first vein of iron and then you swap it out for a smelter's pickaxe. So a bit controversial, I know, but especially because miner is probably the default choice for most people. But I think that all of the other kits are better in some way or another. All right, so tip number 3, and that is that you should go as fast as possible to surface when the PvP timer turns off. And the main reason for this is that as the game goes on, the people that are dying out first are probably the people that are not very good at the game, or they had no loot, so they would have been easy kills. And the people that are going to continue to be alive, they're going to have all the loot of the people that they killed, and they're going to have heads, which is going to be a huge advantage to them if they have heads and you don't have heads. So you shouldn't be sitting in a cave with 0 kills if you're just mining nothing and wasting time. It's fine if you're trying to craft something like an Excalibur that might take a little bit more time, but try to hurry up and get kills as quick as you can, because the kills at the beginning of the game are always the easiest. All right, so tip number 4, don't underestimate raw heads. Regardless of what the devs say on Hoplite about trying to reduce the power of snowballing is always going to be the best strategy because of 2 reasons. The first being legendaries and the second being heads. First of all, with legendaries, obviously they're great items that help you win the game. And at most, you're probably crafting 1 or 2 per game. But if you get a lot of kills, you can stack up more legendaries. And once you get to the point of having 3 or more legendaries, it's pretty hard to lose the game. And the second point is getting heads from kills. Being able to get an item that just heals you for 4 hearts when you right click it once and gives you speed 2 for 15 seconds is pretty underrated, especially when that little bit of healing could swing the fight in your direction, or that little bit of speed could help you get a crazy combo on someone. So don't be afraid to eat your raw heads, and think twice before just instantly making all of your raw heads into Ares every game. All right, so tip number 5, before you go in on a fight, try to think about what gives you the advantage over this other player. Now, this could be anything from you think you're better than the other person, you're going to use your bow or legendary to get them low before you fight. They're already low because you're cleaning them after they just fought. Or you think that you have more armor, so that's what gives you the advantage. In any case, you should be thinking about, why should I be able to kill this person? And if you don't think you have the advantage, then try to put yourself at the advantage by doing something like pre-gapping before the fight, or bowing them so they get low. And doing those things will set you up for success and will make your fights a lot easier. All right, so tip number 6 is that you have to learn when to commit to fights. Now, this may be a bit contradictory to my point number 5, but if you're in a fight and you realize that this other person will not stop chasing you, or if you used all of your healing already and you don't have any left, there's no point in running. You might as well fight back. So think about your previous games. Have you ever been in a situation where you're under 10 hearts, no healing, and you're running, or you're not in a fight? The chances are, if you end up in a situation like this, you're not playing the game the right way. Think of the best streamers on the server, like Flowdibs or a Sweat God. You probably have never seen them in a situation like this because they don't put themselves in these situations, because they just commit to the fights that they do take. If you're out of healing and just running, there's no point, because you have no chance of killing anyone else. And the worst thing that you can do is to just die running without swinging back at the other person. Because not only is this just a waste of your time, but you also didn't learn anything from the exchange. If you fought back, you could at least say your PvP improved a little bit, or you at least had fun. But if you just die running, it was just a waste. So don't do that. All right, so tip number 7 is that you should try to finish your fights as quickly as possible. So say you just heard some death lightning and you saw someone who just got a kill and you want to go clean them. If you're not fast enough and it takes you 1 or 2 minutes to kill this person, you might end up being the person that gets cleaned, because that first death lightning was just a huge announcement to everyone in the game that's near you that there's a fight going on here, and come here if you want to get in on this action. And if you're not quick enough, then that gives other people more time to come towards you, and that could result in you dying, which is obviously not good. Second of all, dragging the fight out just leads you to getting drained of all of your healing, and it also prevents you from getting kills during that time. If you chase someone for 5 minutes versus killing them in 1 minute, you miss out on 4 minutes of potential kills. And during those 4 minutes, everyone was getting kills in the lobby except for you, which puts you at a disadvantage. And that's going to hurt your game in the long run. All right, so tip number 8 is to make sure that you keep your HP high at all times. So the first and obvious reason to this is that if you stay on low HP, it's easier for you to drop. And the second reason is that you want to conserve your G heads for as long as possible. But if you start a fight and you're already low, then there's a good chance that you're just going to have to use your G head during the fight, which is going to really come back to hurt you later. So what should you do? Well, if you just finished a fight and you're on, say, 8 hearts with 2 gaps and a G head, don't be afraid to eat a gap, because even if you are going to lose out on some absorption, you know, it's better than losing out on a G head in the next fight you take. All right, so tip number 9 is to pay attention to what other players in the game are doing. So if someone crafts shrink ray, you'll see that in the chat, and you should pay attention to that person, and now you know, don't follow that person into a cave. If you see one person getting a bunch of kills during the Hunger Games start, then when PvP turns on later after the mining phase, that's probably not the person that you want to fight first, because they're going to have a lot of heads and you're not going to, which is going to put you at a huge disadvantage. Second of all, if you see that there are 2 very stacked players in the game who are both getting a lot of kills, you probably don't want to just whole send one of them, because that is just going to give the other person the win. So overall, just pay attention to what other people are doing and choose your fights accordingly. All right, on to the final tip. Tip number 10 is that you have to learn how to take risks. You know, if you're just starting out on hoplite, it's tempting to only go for people who have less gear than you, and to only focus on the fight that you're currently on and not what's going to happen in the future. Now, that's fine if you're just starting out with the game and every kill is exciting for you. But eventually, if you want to win consistently, you're going to have to take fights that you're not favored to win. Because Battle Royale is like chess, in that even if you're not favored to take a fight, you have to take these risks in order to put yourself in the best position to win. So assume you have 4 diamonds and you save for a chest plate instead of making boots right away. That's a risk. If you and another player are fighting, both on 5 hearts, and you don't want to eat your G head, that's also a risk. If you have diamond pants and you see someone with chest plate and boots, even if you're not favored, that's still a fight that you should take, because in the worst case scenario, you just die. In the best case scenario, you kill that person, you get full diamond, which helps you get a lot of other kills, and it maybe even helps you win the game. So if you want to get good at hoplite, you need to learn how to manage your risk, and ultimately, that's the main factor which separates a good player's game sense versus a bad player's game sense. All right, that's all the tips I have for this video. So if you've made it this far, then thank you. Let me know if you want another video with more tips, or if you want me to talk more in my videos in general. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And with that, you can see how the rest of this game plays out, and I hope you enjoy.